Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's community conversation sponsored by ASI and the Division of Equity, Inclusion, and Compliance. My name is Claudia Catoda, and I'm the Chief Diversity Officer and Special Assistant to the President here at CSUB. I first want to thank ASI and our students for the recommendation on today's topic. I would like to invite Nadia Mendoza, our ASI Vice President of Campus Life, to provide a welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nadia Mendoza, and I am honored to be the ASI Vice President of Campus Life. Thank you for joining us in today's community conversation regarding Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA. I also want to mention how this topic was suggested by our students. Personally, I think this topic is very important as it affects some of our very own. CSUB, along with ASI, is very supportive of our DACA students on campus, and we will continue to still advocate. I am excited to hear from our amazing speakers today. Please know that ASI is an essential service, so if you have any recommendations for future topics, please make sure to email us. I'll make sure to put it in the chat, and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Nadia. Mm-hmm. Today we'll be discussing Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, otherwise known as DACA. Over the summer, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision that DACA was improperly rescinded by the federal government. However, summer also the federal government then stated it would no longer accept new DACA applications. So what does this mean? We are joined by two individuals dedicated to serving our immigrant community who will explain the current status of DACA. First, we have Hilda Niebles, currently the coordinator for the CSUB Dreamers Resource Center in Magic. She started her higher education career at CSUB, where she graduated with a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in public administration. During her time at CSUB, she served as a voting member on the Cal State Student Association Board, and her master's thesis focused on the historical aspect of student government associations and their campus collaboration. Currently, she's a doctoral candidate in the higher education PhD program at the University of Mississippi. Hilda commits her energy to help develop initiatives that will advance the quality of higher education and attainment. We also have Barbara C. Pinto, managing attorney with the Immigrant Legal Defense. Barbara's leadership has contributed to increasing capacity, both locally and statewide, for direct representation of immigrants. Barbara developed ILD's innovative program to provide free legal services to students, staff, and faculty on the California State University system campuses, and currently provides services at CSUB. Prior to co-founding ILD in 2019, Barbara worked for Centro Legal de la Raza in the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. Barbara's direct representation work has involved detained and non-detained removal defense, including representation of undocumented youth and unaccompanied children in the DACA program nationwide. She graduated from UC Hastings College of the Law and is admitted to practice law in California in the Federal Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. I'd like to welcome Barbara.
Thank you, Claudia, for that introduction. Okay, so we'll get started with the presentation. So as Claudia mentioned, I'm Barbara Pinto, and I'm a managing attorney at Immigrant Legal Defense. Our organization is one of 4 organizations that provide free immigration legal services to CSU campuses. Specifically, our organization serves the campuses in the Central Valley, Central Coast, and Bay Area, of course, including your campus at CSU Bakersfield. All our services are free and confidential. We provide not only immigration consultations and screenings, but we also provide case representation, meaning we will be your attorneys in your immigration case if that is what you want. And we handle different types of cases, not only DACA, but also family petitions, immigration court defense, applications for lawful permanent residency or green card, citizenship, and others as well. So please schedule a time to talk to us if you haven't already. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to provide some information on DACA background, as well as currently what's happening with the DACA program. So DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, was implemented by the Obama administration back in 2012. It is a program that for certain undocumented youth that protect them against deportation and detention and gives them a work permit while they are under DACA. In 2017, the Trump administration terminated the program. And from that, we've had several lawsuits challenging that termination. Right after Trump terminated the program, federal courts blocked his termination, but only in a limited way. So it only allowed the immigration agency, USCIS, to process DACA renewals. It could no longer process applications for DACA for people that were applying for the first time or that were applying for advanced parole. So that's what we've had for the past few years, is immigration USCIS only being able to process DACA renewals. Then we move forward to this year, where the Supreme Court on June 18th, 2020, issued a decision stating that the Trump administration, the way they terminated the program, was unlawful. They did not decide whether the program itself was lawful or not, or if it could continue. It just decided that the way it was terminated was unlawful. And so the program should go back to its original state and how it was under the Obama administration. Similarly, again, this past month on July 17th, a federal court judge ordered the DACA program to be reinstated to its original state, given the Supreme Court ruling, meaning that immigration USCIS did not only have to continue processing DACA renewals, but could continue processing DACA initials, so individuals that were applying for the first time would continue processing DACA renewals, as well as applications for advanced parole. And I'll speak in a minute about what that is. Next slide, please. Okay, and so then after that, there's still been more changes to the program. So as you can see, this has been a very eventful past few months for the DACA program. So on July 28th, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, issued a memorandum regarding the program. In that memorandum, DHS and USCIS, the Immigration Service, stated that they will now reject all pending and future initial requests for DACA. They will also reject all pending and future applications for advanced parole unless the person had exceptional circumstances as to why they should be granted advanced parole. The memorandum also shortened the DACA period to 1 year instead of 2. So when someone is granted DACA, instead of getting it for 2 years, they will now be getting it for 1. And we're still waiting to see what's going to happen after and with this memorandum. In the memorandum, Department of Homeland Security also stated that this is temporary. This is a temporary measure while they review the DACA program as a whole and decide what to do with it. And in it, they mentioned that they may decide to end the program or not, but they need time to assess that. And so in the meantime, they were going to implement these changes. Because the lawsuits around DACA are continuing, there will likely be legal challenges to this memorandum. So we're waiting to see what exactly will that look like and how soon those changes will happen. And, this is also an election year. So in November, we'll have elections. So we might potentially also have a new president or not. And so that will also impact what happens with the future of the DACA program. And as you can see, as I've covered the background and current status of the DACA program, there's been a lot of changes recently. And so now more than ever, we really urge individuals to talk to a trusted attorney to receive an individualized assessment, so that when you meet with an attorney, you're receiving the most up-to-date information regarding DACA to see if you're eligible. Can you renew? What does your process look like? Are there risks involved? As well as assess if you're eligible for something more permanent than DACA. Next slide, please. Okay, so what does this mean exactly for the DACA program? So I'll break down each category and provide a little bit more information and detail. It's similar to what we've had for the past few years, but of course there are substantial changes to it still. So as I mentioned, the change that the memorandum made to DACA renewals is that DACA will now be granted for only 1 year instead of 2. So individuals will need to renew every year instead of renewing every 2 years. This is big because we've had DACA renewals be for every 2 years for the past 8 years. The fee will remain the same, so it'll still be $495. As some of you may have heard, Immigration USCIS is going to increase fees for their applications come October, but DACA will not increase. However, since individuals will need to renew every year instead of 2, it'll either way be more costly to the person to renew. The other thing that will remain the same for DACA renewals is that individuals can renew no matter when their DACA expired. So for example, you can renew if you still have time left on your DACA and you want to submit it timely so that you're able to get a renewal granted before your current DACA expires. But you can also renew your DACA if your DACA expired, let's say 6 months ago, a year, or even 5 or more years ago, as long as you're eligible to renew it again. Your application and what you need to submit will just look differently depending on how much time how much time has passed since you last had DACA. The other thing also is in being able to assess what the risks are with somebody renewing. If you've had any contact with law enforcement or have had criminal convictions or you've had other issues related to your case, please come talk to one of us so that we can walk you through and be able to explain what those potential risks look like or if there are any in your case. Okay, so the other change that the memorandum made was to DACA initials. This is when someone applies for DACA for the first time. So this person has never, ever had DACA. They've never applied or they were not eligible until now because of their age. So Immigration USCIS will not accept any more applications for first-time applicants. This also applies for individuals that applied after the Supreme Court decision, but before the July 28th memo. So if someone applied because we had decisions from our court saying the DACA program should now go back to its original state, and USCIS either held on to those applications or they issued receipts saying we were going to process them, they are no longer going to continue to process those applications. Those will all be rejected. It doesn't matter when you applied for the initial. So what does a rejection mean? It means that when you mail your DACA packet to USCIS with your check or money order, your forms filled out, and your evidence, Immigration USCIS will physically accept it and then mail it back to the person. So they'll process it as a rejection, you'll get a rejection notice, and you'll get your entire packet and the money refunded back to you. And so they will not accept it. If USCIS has cashed your check or has processed your application, they will make sure to issue a refund and send everything back. And that's for DACA initials. For advanced parole, as I mentioned, that's a permit that someone that has DACA can request to be able to travel abroad for certain situations. So for example, to travel abroad for educational, humanitarian, or employment reasons. And USCIS will now only accept these applications if there are exceptional circumstances. So if there are no exceptional circumstances, again, USCIS will do the same as they're doing with the DACA initials. They'll receive the packet and immediately mail it back to the person and issue the refund. So they're not going to process those. We're still waiting to receive guidance from USCIS, from the immigration agency, as to what they mean by exceptional circumstances and what would qualify for that. Separately, even if you are granted advance parole or can apply because you have exceptional circumstances, there are additional things you need to consider. So, for example, it is still risky to travel under this current administration. Advance parole and this permit that you receive does not guarantee entry into the US. It only allows you to request entry. And so there are risks associated with that. Also risks associated with traveling abroad given the COVID pandemic. So as we're seeing, countries are opening and closing their borders, or there are no flights in and out of certain countries. And so it can be risky if you're not able to leave and come back into the US for that reason. But again, if you have any questions about either DACA renewals, DACA initials, or advanced parole, please come talk to one of us and we can help answer your questions. And of course, if you have any questions, I know this is a lot of information. If you have any questions that are coming up for those that are on this webinar, please let us know. Feel free to chat it. Okay, next slide, please. So something else to keep, so these are a few points to keep in mind. So as I mentioned, the memorandum on July 28th, that is what we have right now, but that can change, right? The Trump administration can try to end the program in a way that the Supreme Court held to be lawful, or due to litigation efforts and the lawsuits that are continuing, that may also change what we have. That may also change the program. So we're still trying to see exactly what's going to happen with the DACA program. And the other thing to keep in mind is that only Congress can take action to create a permanent solution for DACA recipients and other immigrants in our community. And so that's why when the Obama administration implemented the DACA program, they were only able to provide a temporary work permit and temporary protection against deportation and detention. They weren't able to create something more permanent. And that is something that only Congress can do. And so, that's something we can all be involved in, is advocacy with our congressional reps, so that there is something more permanent, like I mentioned, not only for DACA recipients, but also for our parents, our grandparents, our uncles and aunts, and other immigrants in our community. But I know, there may be changes to the DACA program, and we may or may not have it in the future, but as long as the DACA program is in place, DACA recipients are protected against detention and deportation and are eligible for a work authorization or a work permit to be able to work lawfully in the US, as long as they don't violate their DACA status. So there are certain things, if the person does, that can make immigration or USCIS take away their status. And if you are worried or you believe you're at risk, then please also come talk to us so that we can work through that and see what we can help you with. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what next? And I know I've mentioned this already several times. So as you can guess, this is my main takeaway of this presentation, is to please make an appointment to talk to one of our immigration attorneys, so that we can help answer your questions, help answer any doubts you may have around DACA. If you want to know whether you should renew your DACA or how far in advance you should do it, Are there funds available to cover the $495 renewal fee? Or if you believe a family member is eligible for DACA and you want them to have a consultation, we can do that and we can help answer those questions. If you want to better understand what your risks are if DACA goes away, what does that look like? What would that look like for you? Or what are your options? What are your options now besides DACA, or if DACA goes away? And that is something definitely, and one of the main reasons why we encourage individuals to talk to us. Or maybe you don't have DACA and you still want to know what your options are. Because, and if you do have DACA is temporary. It has no path to citizenship. It doesn't give someone legal status. So the more we can figure out ahead of time what those other options may look like for you, the better. And it may be that it's not only for you, but also assessing if your family members are eligible for other forms of relief, because sometimes we've been able to find something for parents that can then include the youth in their application. And some of the common forms of relief that we've seen are, for example, applying for a green card through a family member or through an employer. We've also talked to individuals that are eligible for a U visa if they've been a victim of a violent crime in the US and have cooperated in the investigation of that crime. If you've been a victim recently and haven't reported it to law enforcement or an agency, you can still come talk to us so we can walk you through what that would look like. And another common form of relief that we also have been seeing in the screenings are special immigrant juvenile status, or SIJS. Now that is only open to youth under the age of 21. So if you're under 21, more reason to come talk to us, because there are certain options that are only available to children and young adults under the age of 21. This one specifically, special immigrant juvenile status, is for individuals who have been abused, neglected, or abandoned by one or both of their biological parents. So some examples are someone grew up in a single parent household, someone had one of their parents deported, or one of their parents passed away, or maybe they grew up with both parents and at some point just one parent, even though they have been here in the US, hasn't really supported them or really been around. Again, these are just common scenarios, not all the options available to someone. So please seek us out and ask questions if you think some of these may apply to you. And I know I mentioned a lot about making an appointment to come talk to us and getting this relief. And so I'll now turn it over to Hilda, who will talk about how to access these services and other services on your campus.
Thank you, Barbara. First of all, welcome to this presentation. I'm really excited that all of you are here. Whether you're here because you want to know more about DACA or the services that we offer at CSUB, or you are an undocumented student yourself, we want you to know that we're here to support you. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk about my role, as well as what some of the aspects that Barbara talked about connect to our students here at CSUB. So welcome again. So my name again is Hilda Nieblas, and I am the Dreamers Resource Center and Magic Coordinator. And now I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about what we do. So next slide, please. So the Dreamers Resource Center at CSUB is dedicated to providing support and resources for our undocumented students and students of mixed status families. So there's a misconception that we only offer services and support for undocumented students, but the reality is that we've realized that we've realized that students who come from mixed status families, which means that the student themselves may have legal status, but they have a family member or a sibling that does not. We also provide services for those students because we know that a family member's legal status can impact their academic journey here at CSUB. So we officially opened our doors in December 2019. So we've been open a little over 8 months, and it has been a great 8 months of collaborations on campus, as well as learning what the needs of our undocumented student populations are here at CSUB, because it's going to be very different at each institution. And we're always open for you all to give us feedback about possible programs or resources that we don't currently have, but that you would like to see on campus or that you feel would be a good fit for our students. As Barbara mentioned, one of our most popular services is our free immigration clinic, which we offer every 2 weeks. We are responsible for the scheduling component. We also have those dates posted on our social media as well as in our website. And so we make it pretty easy to the point where if you don't necessarily want to call us or contact us directly, you can make an appointment via that link, and you can go to that at csub.edu/dreamers under our events tab. One of the biggest components, I can't reiterate this enough, it is very important because the aspect of immigration is always changing and everything is a case-by-case basis, like Barbara mentioned. So we are always encouraging students to take advantage of this aspect, one, because it's free, and two, because you won't know your options unless you meet with one of our attorneys, but also the fact that you could have met with an attorney 2 years ago, but then your case may have some differences that would be beneficial for you. I also want to mention that these services are open to our students and their families, immediate family, but also for faculty and staff members. So if you are a faculty or staff member here at the university and are in need of a free immigration appointment, please let us know and we can help you through that process as well. One of the aspects that we've been extremely busy with is the ongoing support through the admissions process. So there are 3 specific components to this process. And I just want to say that eventually as a center, the goal is to go out into the high school system and start connecting with students during their senior year, because a lot of these aspects impact them once they get here and they aren't either aware of the applications or the aspects that they need to complete before coming to the university. The first one is the California Dream Act application, which is equivalent to the financial aid component, the federal financial aid component, which our undocumented students do not qualify for. It's in a different portal, and we help students fill out the application, as well as we have an expert in financial aid that we work with directly to make sure that our students are taken care of. The scholarship process is very different for our undocumented students. This work was done prior to me coming here, and we're just continuously adding. So there are some resources there within helping to fill out the scholarships, as well as exposing our students to scholarships that they qualify for. And then the other one is university documents. So there are some documents that students have to submit. The one specific one that we help with the most is the residency application, which if students qualify for that application, then they are able to pay in-state tuition. And that is an extremely huge help for our students, especially for those who qualify for this. It's also termed as AB 540, so there's some interchangeable language there. But we do have some students that get here and aren't aware of the residency requirement or application, and so they'll pay out-of-state tuition until we inform them that this is something that they need to complete. So like I said, the goal is to eventually connect with students before they get to the university so that they're aware, and in future plans, hopefully to build a specific orientation for our undocumented students so that we can make a checklist and make sure that all of those processes are taken care of. Another component to my role is the advocacy piece. And this is a very important one just because we have several types of undocumented students in the sense of some of them are very public about their legal identity versus we have students who are less likely to share their legal identity, and or they found out that they were undocumented through the application process. And so there can be some fear and shame connected to this legal status. And so we want to make sure that when students are reaching out for resources or support from campus, that they're getting it without having to expose their legal identity. And I think sometimes our undocumented students feel like everyone that they talk to on campus, they must say that they're undocumented in order to get the support that they need. And so the advocacy piece that comes from our office is at the education piece, which I'll talk a little bit about in the next slide, but also that sometimes I reach out to individual departments or organizations and asking the question on behalf of the student. Then I come back and connect the student with that information. There's a huge component of connecting students to other support programs on campus, but we also want to make sure that even in that connection or reference aspect, that students feel completely comfortable with those individuals. And most of the time, if we're referring the student to someone else, I make sure that I explain why they're being referred, as well as the expert part or component, as well as that individual being an advocate and an ally of our organization. Next slide, please. Okay. And so when we are on campus, obviously we provide a more physical space, and we have study rooms as well as a community area where students can come and explore the various aspects of their legal identity, as well as the intersectionality of other identities. And so like I mentioned earlier, we do have some students that don't necessarily find out that they're undocumented until they're in the process of applying for college. And so what that means to them and how we as a university help them develop through their identities and just identity development overall. But now that we're virtual, we do our best to try to provide that space virtually. So I know that for the fall semester, we're completely virtual. And so we try to do events and webinars you can learn about all of this via our website, as well as our Instagram, which I'll share our handle a little later. But like I said earlier, if there are aspects that you would like to see us host that maybe we haven't thought about or that you've seen somewhere else, please let us know. We're always open to feedback and to providing everything that we can to support our undocumented students. And then for staff and faculty who are here, one of the projects that's currently in the works, and we hope to do for the first time this semester, is our Undocu Ally training. And so what that means is, first of all, Undocu Ally is a term that has been adopted to refer to campus allies for our undocumented students. So in this training, the hope is that staff and faculty who go through the training will leave with an understanding of the several aspects that impact the undocumented student experience, which includes, but obviously is not limited to, the history, legislation, and then the current and future realities of our undocumented students. But this includes, I work very directly with our attorney, so having our attorney or Barbara talk about some of the aspects that she touched base on today, as well as some of the aspects that aren't necessarily thought about on a daily basis, like mental health, and especially now with everything happening with DACA. And then overall, it's an opportunity to discuss what it means to be an ally and how to become an ally for our undocumented students, whether that's using proper language or removing old language from our vocabulary. And the goal is to eventually, everyone who goes through this Undocu Ally training will then be posted on our website. And so the goal is to create a community of allies and advocates on campus that students feel like they can go to and trust, but not feel like they have to expose their legal identity every time they need to talk to someone. For example, if they need help with financial aid, they would go on this Undocu Ally page. If you've been through the training, your photo will be on there as well as your contact information. And a marker or sticker would be on your door that would tell students that you're an ally of their legal status. And so the goal is for them to come in and say, hey, I got your information from the Undocu Ally website, and this is my situation. So it's a more sensitive way of the coming out process in terms of the legal identity, without having to revisit every single aspect of that. So be on the lookout for that. We will be sending it out once it's ready to be posted. We'll be sending that out as a campus email for everyone to sign up. And the goal is to eventually have it be catered to departments. So if you're doing a departmental training and you want your department to be trained Undocu Ally, go through the Undocu Ally training, then we would adopt that to meet the needs of your department. So next slide, please. And here I've provided, again, my name is Hilda Nieblas. This is my direct email. Please contact me if you have saved my email. If you don't need it now, maybe in the future, if you're an undocumented student and feel like you have everything that you need, maybe just save my contact email in case you need it in the future. This is our Instagram handle. We just created a Facebook, so add us on there, as well as a Twitter. I'm not a super expert in social media. That's what these 3 social media platforms have taught me, but we are doing our best in learning and making sure that we connect with you all via all of the social medias that are out there. So, and now I will hand it over to Claudia for the Q&A aspect.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you, Barbara, for that information that you just provided. We have a few questions coming in that I'd like to share. The first one is from Jessica. Jessica is a new CSUB student starting here at CSUB. And her question is, she wants to know how she can get more involved with becoming more educated on DACA, as this is all new to her. You're on mute, Hilda.
Thank you. First of all, welcome to CSUB. And I'm really glad that you're here. So one way that you can connect with us is send me an email and we can have a conversation about it. We've also created a DACA page, and that's csub.edu/DACA. And I can put it on the chat right after this. But that gives you specific information, as well as we try to translate all of the information that comes out and making sure that it's understandable to our students, as well as all of the services that are available to our students and some of the ones that I spoke about. So that's one way to learn about DACA in general, as well as we're in the works of trying to figure out how we can connect with volunteers who want to be part of the center and help support. So if you send me an email, I'll put you down on that list. And then once we have that information, I can send it out to you directly. Thank you. Claudia, you're on mute.
Thanks, Hilda. The next question is from Kim Collins. Question is, are there any free legal services for community college DACA students?
Yes, that's a great question. So just how with the CSU system, we have 4 nonprofit organizations that are providing free immigration legal services. The California Community College System also has organizations that are providing free immigration legal services to students, staff, and faculty. So not only in regards to DACA students. I'll add that link to the chat box so that you all can access. It's my understanding that not all the campuses have a provider, but the services are available to all community college students.
And I just want to add to that, if you're speaking specifically about Bakersfield College, I know we work very closely with them. And last semester, they were in the works of finalizing a way to provide free legal services to their students. So I would also check the AB 540 website for Bakersfield College, and I can send that as well on the chat.
And Hilda, what if it's a student who is coming from the community colleges and transferring to CSUB? Can they seek services at CSUB?
Yes. So as soon as you begin the thinking process of applying to CSUB, because we also help with the application process, that's also something that we can help you with. So if you're thinking about coming to CSUB, send me an email and we can help you out for sure.
Thank you. The next question is from Kate MacArthur. Kate says, Hilda, you said that AB 540 is approved if students meet the requirements. Could you go over what those requirements are?
Yes, this is going to be a test, but I'm going to try to give you the information off the top of my head. Barbara, do you have these memorized by any chance? No. Okay.
It's been a while.
So the first one is that you must have attended either high school, but the community college level also counts. And I believe it's 3 years. And then let me pull it up. Can I just don't want to give you the wrong information. So let me pull it up just to give you the correct information.
And one thing I'll mention on that is that AB 540 is not tied to DACA. So if the person, for whatever reason, isn't eligible for DACA or never had DACA, or the DACA program goes away, AB 540 has their own separate set of requirements. So an individual will still be eligible if they meet the AB 540 or related bills requirements for in-state tuition. Similarly with the California DREAM Act, which provides in-state tuition for those that are undocumented, it also isn't tied to DACA status. We see, and that's common. Some individuals that are under AB 540 and receiving aid through the California DREAM Act don't have DACA, and some do. So if as allies, we can definitely encourage students to look into these different options.
Thank you for that, Barbara. Okay, so the applicant must meet one of the following requirements, and that's attended a high school or public or private in California for 3 or more years, or attained credit earned in California from a California high school equivalent to 3 or more years of full-time high school coursework, and attended a combination of elementary, middle, or high school. But now they've added the attained credits at a combination of California high school, California adult school, and California community college for the equivalency of 3 years. So those are the 3. I can definitely, let me put them in the chat because I know that was a lot of information. Hopefully that helped answer that question. But if not, please email me and we can help you process that application.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you, Barbara. Next question is, are these services offered in Spanish?
Yes, good question. I forgot to mention this in my presentation. So these services are offered in whatever your best language is. We, on staff, our attorneys speak English, Spanish, and a few other languages as well fluently. If we don't speak a language that you feel more comfortable speaking to us in, please let us know what that language is, and we can find we have access to an interpreter line service, so we can have a professional interpreter on the call to help. We also have on staff someone who speaks Mam, an indigenous language of Guatemala too. So if that ever comes up, please let us know. So we really want to, whether it's a student, staff, faculty, or family member, we really want everyone to access the service in their best language.
Thank you. Next question is from Kathleen Welsh. She states, would it be prudent to submit initial applications knowing that they are likely to be rejected in order to get a rejection notice that has a date on it confirming that the application was submitted during the period of time after July 28 order and before Trump does something else to end DACA?
So what we've heard from advocates and attorneys that are part of these litigation efforts and these lawsuits that are continuing is that if there is sort of a possibility that if there's a possibility of a class action or a group of individuals that may be protected and maybe they can pursue DACA for the first time, it would be those that submitted their initial application for DACA after the Supreme Court decision, so after June 18th, but before the Department of Homeland Security memo on July 28th. So for those individuals who did apply and either have already received or will receive their rejection notice and their packet, we're having, our recommendation is people should save that in case it helps. Of course, it may not help, and there may not be sort of this protected group, but in case there is, it would be those. After it doesn't seem helpful at all to submit an application after this memo, since it's really clear after this memo that USCIS won't be accepting initial applications. One thing I'll also add is that we're not sure what information USCIS, the immigration agency, receives when they process a rejection. So they do return the application and with a rejection notice to the individual, but we don't know how they process it on their end, meaning what information do they keep? So that's something to think about as well, is potentially someone flagging themselves with immigration for the first time, and what are sort of the risks and benefits around that, that we can definitely talk through with someone if they're if they're thinking of doing that or trying to figure out how to move forward.
Thank you, Barbara. At this time, we don't have any more questions. If folks still have questions, please type them in the Q&A. Just as a reminder, these community conversations are recorded and will be posted on our Equity, Inclusion, and Compliance website by tomorrow. So you'll have the slides as well as this recording. Final questions. And just to reiterate, the services that are provided by the Immigration Legal Defense are free to our faculty, staff, and students. All right, I see no other questions. Barbara, Hilda, Nadia, any final comments before we close?
I just want to say thank you so much, Barbara and Hilda, for offering your services. I can't stress this enough. They are amazing. Their work is amazing, very supportive. They're fast and efficient when it comes to making sure documents when renewing. So thank you again so much. Saying this from a personal perspective, and I can't thank you guys enough. So students, please take advantage of it. It's great. Even if it's not for you necessarily, maybe it's a friend or a friend of a friend, let them know that we do have these services. So CSUB is very, very supportive, and we can't stress that enough. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for organizing this.
Yes, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here, but as well as thank you to everyone who logged in to listen to the information. So hopefully you found something useful that either for yourself or for someone that you know. And thank you for the ongoing support that we've received from the campus community as well as the Bakersfield community in this center. And the work has been being done for a long time. So now that we have officially a center, it's been a great opportunity for me to come back home and help our students. So please take advantage of all of the services that we provide. Save my email, even if it's not anytime soon, maybe later. And then when we're back on campus, come and say hi. But we're completely here to support you. And currently, all of our services are available virtually. So connect with us. And thank you all for planning and doing this event. So
thank you, Hilda. We have a little shout out from President Selesny to the both of you. Amazing presentation and grateful for your professionalism and support. So thank you very much to everyone. Our next community conversation will be September 17th at 11 a.m. In the fall semester, we'll be doing them on a monthly basis, and we hope to continue these conversations all year round. Our next topic that we'll be exploring, these are topics that are nominated by our ASI as well as our students, is the topic of intersectional identities and intersectionality. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.